Hiding from the same world that made me who I am. Depressed, can't even get out of bed. Too blessed to be so stressed. I do all that just to say get off my mixed emotions prohibit my focus. This what you wanted, what's wrong with you? You don't make sense. Feel like I could flip at any moment. Faces playing in with me. Doing drugs was just a war with boredom, but it's sure to get me. Lord forgive me. Amen. Wear the crown of thorns for sport. I'm just waiting for a stone to hit me. Relationship on the rocks, my family all concerned. My homie still on the block, getting it off the curb. I'm stricken by survivor's guilt, I'm getting it off of words. Word. Come on, Herb, you
gotta do better. I 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 gotta do better. Gotta do better today. Gotta do better before it's too late.
I'm out the wind, and I'm out the wind. From your skins, I'm out the wind, out the wind, out the wind. From your skins, I'm out the wind.
Always haunt my dreams. The green twins with your eyes.
A mistake. Jesus. Wow. Good morning. Hey, even pros make mistakes sometimes with this technology, my friends. I was talking to myself as my mic was muted, but here I am live and direct. It's Monday morning. Let's get it. I hope you're ready to get it. I am ready. I don't have to get ready because I was born ready and I stay ready. How about you? Hey, okay. So today, many of you may be aware that last week we released the $1 Million Agency Blueprint. And the $1 Million Agency Blueprint is a course that we've spent, well, if I'm being honest with you, I've spent 25 years building this course and 6 months in the execution of creating the curriculum, building the tools out, building the platform out, building the partner kit to enable our licensed partners to deliver this to their TAs. And it's the collective work of myself, of my editing team, my videography team, my production team. Like, hey, we have a team over here. This is what I do. You understand what I'm saying? We don't have 150,000 students just because I think I know some stuff and I'm data dumping into some platform. No, this is what we do. So anyone else is putting out some hobby courses, we are not the same. This is my profession. I take it very seriously. And this particular course is something that's really special to me for many reasons. One, I know this industry. I know the journey of a trusted advisor intimately. But as we release this, I realized, man, a lot of y'all out there just don't know. You don't know my story. You don't know how I got to this point. All you know is you see a dude with the presence and, does a lot of cool things and all that, but you don't know how I got to this point. So I thought I'd take this morning to tell you a little bit about myself, tell you a little bit more about the story so you can understand why this particular course, the $1 Million Agency Blueprint, is so special to me and why it is so impactful to you. Okay, so I'm going to answer questions. Let me get a little sip of this coffee. First question: Mm. By the way, if you've got live questions on whatever platform, hopefully they're rolling through on this platform. I'm on StreamYard this morning. I usually use Riverside, but Riverside's bugging out. So I'm on StreamYard. And I don't know if it's connecting on all the platforms properly, but whatever. But first question, I'm enjoying my coffee out of my chip mug. Which what type of coffee am I drinking? Let me go ahead and put y'all on game. See this right here? Yes, I'm all the way Atlanta. Okay. This is the Stankonia 25th anniversary coffee from Portrait Coffee. It's expensive as hell. This was like I think $25 a bag, but hey, I live in Atlanta, 24 years in Atlanta. And so, wow, that's wild. This is 25, 24. Jesus, time flies. Anyway, so I'm enjoying my Stankonia this morning. And again, the focus of this today, and if you guys have any questions about my journey, you have any questions about industry questions, whatever, just pop them in the chat as we go. Hopefully they'll sync over here to me. Even if you have questions, even if you're watching this on replay or whatever on demand, pop them in there. I'll be checking back. If you have a good question, I'll answer it. Okay. So let's start with the first question. So this is kind of weird. I'm not used to interviewing myself. I interview a whole lot of people. I've interviewed, I don't know, hundreds of people, but interviewing myself is and I've been interviewed, I don't know how many times, a gazillion times, but like interviewing yourself is kind of weird. Anyway, first question for me, and this is with assistance from my my assistant, Chat GPT. The beginning. How did I first get into technology sales, get in the technology sales industry? So for me, it started in the year 2000 and it was 2000. Was it 2000? Yeah, it was 2000. So I had been, for you guys have read my book right there, boom, Shut the Hell Up and Sell. You'll know that I started my career in the jewelry industry, and I was a wholesale diamond broker, kind of, right before getting into technology. And what happened is a few of my buddies that had been sales managers in the jewelry industry, like myself, had gotten into selling telecom, and they were crushing it. And so they hit me up, and I was hating my job because at the time I was on the road like 8 weeks out of the month, and I had a new wife and everything, and it was not going to be a good look. So my buddy Scott Ashby, shout out to Scott Ashby, hit me up and said, "Hey man, you need to come check this out." And that's how it started. I interviewed in the year at the end of 2000, and by 2001, I'm in the industry. I'm doing my damn thing. And that's how it started. That's how I got into technology. So again, we're going back all the way to 2001. I started my career with a company by the name of McLeod USA. Some of you old heads will no doubt remember them because they were a big deal. The turn of the millennium. Millennium. I don't know. Y'all correct me. I don't know. Whichever. Take your choice. And turn of the century. That even sounds cool too. It was a little turn of the century. So that's how I started in the industry. I started my very first agency, and this is why this is so relevant and so close to me. Before starting my first agency, I did my very first deal on what we would call the technology channel in the year 2001. Okay, 2001. In 2004, I started my first agency, RD Direct. Those of you that have known me for a long time know that name because we ran RD Direct for about 14 years. And that was one of the most fulfilling things I've ever done in my life, one of the most challenging things I've ever done in my life. And the foundation for what is in the $1 Million Agency blueprint. So in 2004, the industry looked way different. Right now, where there are roughly 1,000 companies in the technology channel ecosystem. Back then, there's maybe a couple dozen, maybe. And of those couple dozen, there's really only 5 to 10 that were really in it The rest of them had their big toes in and trying to figure out what the hell this thing was going to be, but weren't really committed. And so it was a very different time, a very challenging time, as compensation was not the way that it is today. So it took a lot longer to be successful. But I believed that there was an opportunity for me in that space, an opportunity for entrepreneurship. I grew up as the child of entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurship's always been in my blood. So I believed that there was an opportunity. I had no idea how challenging, how difficult that opportunity would be, but I'm not the sort of person that looks at things and looks at the difficulty. I look at the opportunity and I find ways to win. And that's what I did. So, in finding a way to win, the very first thing that I learned in getting into that industry was that the standard for the successful path, or the path to success, was not going to work for me. The path to success in that world was much like the insurance industry. You're an agent, and then you have sub agents that are underneath you. These are folks that don't really work for you. And so the challenge in that is you can't really tell them what to do. You can encourage them, you can try to enable them, but it is very challenging to be successful in building a scalable company in that sort of environment. So what I learned early on is that I'm not going to do that. I'm going to run my business like a company, structure, compensation plans, hire people, project manage, everything. So we end up building ultimately a company and a brand that spanned 3 offices, 1 offshore office. At our height, we probably had about close to 50 people working in our company, and project management staff, customer experience, customer service, sales, all that. And I built that from the ground up. I built that with little to no mentorship, no coaching, and just a desire, an ambition, and a refusal to quit. Just quitting was never an option. It's just not how I'm wired. So I learned a whole lot of lessons. I did things that were unconventional for the time, and quite frankly, they're unconventional even today. There are a lot of kind of lifestyle agents in this business right now that have no clue how to do those things that I did. So like what I did in the agency blueprint is I took my experience in building that agency, acquiring other agencies along the way, and scaling out a business, and the consulting that I've done for the last 10 years ish with helping technology companies, helping TSDs, helping TAs and suppliers, and taking all of that information and putting it into this blueprint, something that's never been done before, ever. There is no piece of content out there that can touch this even a little bit, because anything that's out there that's for the TA community, it usually comes from some sort of area of bias, one, and created by people who don't know curriculum. 2, I have 150,000 students. I have almost 40 courses out there. Okay. 4.7 out of 5 average rating. I know what I'm doing. So it's not just about giving people information. It's about giving them information in ways that they can consume it, that they can execute on it. And with tools, SOPs, scripts, all of that's in there. Okay. Oh, all right. So that's a little bit. Hey, Corey, what's up, my guy? Good to see Corey out there. Corey Connors, thanks for checking in. Roderick Jefferson, my guy, thanks for checking in as well. Appreciate y'all. Again, anyone that hops on that has any questions about this topic or whatever, feel free to pop them in the chat and I will answer them. All right. That's the first question. I'm giving y'all the short and condensed version, as you can imagine. If you ever want to know about some of the specific challenges, maybe you have some specific challenges and you want to ask me about them, let me tell you something. There's damn near nothing that I have not been through. Employee challenges. Listen, part of our operation was call center operation. So I know a lot of it about HR challenges. A lot of it. That might be my next book. Just talking about all the things that all the experiences um, with employees and man, I got some stories for y'all. A lot of those stories, they're R-rated stories, a lot of them. So I can't. I'm not going to tell y'all in this format, but a lot of wild and crazy stories. All right, let me go to the next question. Next question is, let me switch this up here. Starting your agency. When you first started your agency, what was your goal and what were those early days like? My goal was to pay my mortgage. That was my goal. It was very simple. And those early days were quite challenging. I did whatever I needed to do to be successful. So a lot of people talk about getting financing or getting people to invest in your business. Let me tell you the truth. Nobody wants to give you money unless you have money. As a small business person, no one wants to give you money unless you have money. Do you hear me? So once my business was successful, oh man, banks want to give me money, and they gave me money. But when I was launching the business, I didn't have any outside funding. I had to use whatever resources I had. Here's what that looked like: credit cards charged up, unemployment benefits. I did do whatever I needed to do to survive long enough to be able to thrive. And that's what the first 8 to 9 months looked like. And then I got work. I got a job. A good friend of mine, shout out to Greg Ginsky, gave me a job. And I told him right from the get-go, here's the piece of advice I will give y'all when you're starting your business. First, never lose focus of what ultimate success is for you. Because along that way, you're going to have to make compromises. You're going to have to take a job. You're going to have to do different things. And here's what happens with a lot of people that end up taking jobs. They get distracted. And so that job ends up taking over and they lose focus on their entrepreneurial endeavors. I told Greg when I took that job, I said, Greg, I am building this business. That's what's most important to me. And he, to his credit, he knew my talent, he knew my gift. And he said, listen, man, I know that you can do what my other folks do with 10% of your time, you can crush them. And that's exactly what I did. So we had an agreement going into it. I stepped into it. I made him look good. I did my thing, and I was able to keep my focus on my business. And then 18 months later, I think it was 18 months, I left. And now I had built up enough to where I could exit out of that and just be, full-time into my business. But I never lost focus on this, and I never stopped my work effort in the business. That's something that a lot of people get challenged with, and a lot of people, it's how they get distracted and they fail, is they take something else on and they forget what their ultimate goal is, which is entrepreneurship. So that's one of the many challenges and struggles that I had as I launched, learning how to hire, learning how to build comp plans, learning how to structure an organization, learning how to create SOPs, learning how to scale, learning how to protect yourself from the inevitable things that are going to happen. Like they're little things that people just don't think about. What do you have on paper that protects you? Agreements, structuring agreements, hiring agreements, agent agreements, all these different things. Like, part of what's going to make you successful in scaling any business is having an eye on what could potentially happen to derail you, having an eye on the future and before thinking. But the challenge in that is you don't know what you don't know. So you don't know that that's going to be an issue for you. And I didn't until I went through it. And then I course corrected. And these are the things that I built in the $1 Million Agency Blueprint to help people to scale, to take a lifestyle business and turn it into a real company, something that leaves that something um, that is an asset. Because the challenge that a lot of agents have in their lifestyle business is that they can't sell it. No one wants to buy your business. No one wants to buy your business. Do you know why? Because you are the business. And I can't buy a business from somebody that if they move themselves out the business doesn't exist anymore. I created a successful business that operated without me. I took my vacations, did whatever. Yeah, I was the boss. I made the decisions. I built out the campaigns and all that. But ultimately, I wasn't involved in sales calls every day. I wasn't involved in customer service and those things unless I wanted to be, unless I needed to be. That's a business that is an actual asset that you can pass on, that you can sell, you can get a nice multiple for, that sort of thing. All right. Next question. What you learned about the channel? I always find this is a question that is, when I answer this question, it's usually vastly different than most people, how they answer the channel, because I find that people are they wax poetic, they're very nostalgic, they talk about the soft stuff, and everyone says the same shit. Everyone goes, oh, relationships. Oh, it's all about, relationships and like it's just and community. It's this great welcoming community. And I just don't here's the thing. Where I see that the most are from the people that have $150,000 salaries. I'm talking about, channel managers, as far as, oh, they can't, because their life is going from party to party. Listen, I'm not talking shit about y'all. I'm just saying what it is. Like, yes, you work. Yes, many of you work hard. You travel a lot, all those things. But it's like, oh, you see largely the relationship part of it. And those tend to be the biggest voices on social media. But for TAs, oh, I know it's different. It's different because that superficial stuff that the suppliers and get excited about and talk about in the relationships, for us, what we need is mentorship. What we need is direction. What we need is coaching, not more cocktails and steaks, not more parties, not more self-serving presentations about products. That's why I created this course, because I know what y'all need. I know y'all need business advice. You need to learn how to fundamentally build a strong business. You need to know how to prospect. You need to know how to identify your ideal client. You need to know how to leverage LinkedIn to get your customers, to find more customers. You need to know how to find talent. You need to know how to evaluate partners. These are the things that TAs need to be successful. And this is the gap. And so when supplier reps talk about relationships, well, I think that one of the biggest gaps y'all don't understand is the most important relationship to a TA is someone that puts money in their pocket. I'm not talking about just write them a check. I'm talking about someone that can help them along to success, mentor them, coach them, provide the tools, and have the wisdom, have the insight to give practical, pragmatic knowledge and direction. That's what TAs need, because the failure rate for TAs is extremely high. I haven't seen the numbers lately. I'm sure Jay McBain or Devan Adams have some numbers somewhere. But I will tell you this, having my finger on the pulse of this industry, as much as we talk about success, I can tell you this, I believe the failure rate is higher than in normal small business for many reasons. That's something I'll answer in another day. But think about that. We talk about relationships. Meanwhile, we have this massive failure rate in TAs. Okay. So that's part of the gap that I'm seeking to bridge. And I think I'm uniquely qualified to do that. Why? because of my experience on that side of the house as a TA, because of my experience in coaching, consulting, solution providers, TAs, suppliers, TSDs. I've worked with everyone because of my experience in building curriculum. That's important. Lots of people have knowledge. The problem is that how do you download that knowledge and transfer it to someone in ways that they can receive it, in ways that where it's executable and actionable? That, my friends, is a skill. That, my friends, is something that you have to be taught and you have to learn. Okay? All right. Next question. The evolution of my thinking. The question is, what were some things you believed early in your career that you later realized were wrong? Ooh, good one. Good one. The first thing that I learned in my agency was the importance of working with less suppliers. When I launched my first company, I had the vision that I wanted to provide clients options. That was the idea. I probably somewhere here in my office, I have the original business plan. And the idea was, hey, I want to go to customers and say, hey, listen, I'm your one stop. I got, shout out to my guy, Teddy Mathis. You come to me and I'm going to give you, 3-4 options and you don't got to go anywhere else. Boom, here you go. And here's what I learned early on in that. That doesn't work. Doesn't work. Because you're creating confusion in the marketplace. You're making the decision harder than it needs to be. And in this business, speed wins. The faster you can get a customer to the finish line, your better chances of being successful in this business. Because when I started in this business, think about this. If I sold a deal in August, let's say I sold a $1,000 circuit in August. That circuit would take 60 days to get installed. Okay. They'd say it'd take 30, but it really took 60. It took 60 days to get installed. Okay. And then I have to wait for billing. Right. And if you're running it through a TSD, which was a master, now I had most of my contracts direct, but let's say you're running through a TSD. So now you've got a couple of months back for that billing to catch up. So now you're talking 4 or 5 months after you sold the deal. Now you're getting a check. At that point in time, percentages for residuals are probably around 16 to 18% max. So I sold a $1,000 circuit in August, and somewhere in January, more than likely, I'm getting a check for $160. Do the math there. You see what I'm saying? So like if you're creating friction on the front end, right? You're making it more of a difficult decision. You're drawing out that decision-making process. And that's what you do when you create confusion. Now I'm adding more time to that. So think about how many circuits you need to sell to pay your mortgage with those sorts of numbers. And think about those timelines. Now, in today's environment, the timelines are shortened. They're not the same. And if you're intelligent and you're strategic, your path to revenue can not only be faster, but much more profitable. And these are some of the things I talk about in the course and put people on game to. But still, the challenge of expediting that initial process of the sale is super important. How do you expedite? Well, you expedite by knowing who your ICP is and focusing on your ICP. Your ICP is that community that you're uniquely qualified to serve at a high level. When you can articulate that in your approach, when you can articulate that through your prospecting, that expedites the sales process. Because what I learned early on is that people didn't need more choices. What they needed was to be told what to do by someone that they trusted as being qualified to be able to give them direction. That's what people want. Like your decision maker, she doesn't want to be you. They have their own set of circumstances and their own business to run. They're not trying to be better at your business. What they want is someone that is qualified to tell them what to do. And the best way to line that up and have that alignment is that you have a great ICP model. That's the first thing. It's one of the first lessons that I learned early on of many, many, many lessons. One, so the supplier thing, um, and learning about revenue. There's another thing that's in the course. Understanding profitability is king. It's not just about revenue. This course is called the $1 Million Agency Blueprint, but at the end of the day, and it's an arbitrary number. Like whatever the number is for you, great. But what I want to re-educate people around is profitability. It's not about how much you make, it's how much you keep. So I learned that early on. And I learned it when I first hit $1 million in my agency. It was cool because it was something that I had set as a goal and objective, but didn't change anything in my wallet, because I had accrued expenses that made it to where I wasn't any more profitable. I was I was less profitable and was in a more dangerous loop because of trying to maintain the revenue and the overhead that was required to maintain the revenue and to grow the revenue. So these are things that I learned the hard way, and you get to learn through the course. Those are a couple of things. Oh, I'll give you one more one. You can't do everything, and you can't build a scalable business if you are involved in everything. Business has to be able to operate without you. Now, I did that through hiring, through training, because I brought in people that didn't have the experience. I created all the training programs, created all the SOPs, I created all the structure. And it wasn't easy, but it was very fulfilling. But here's the thing, for you in 2026, you have an advantage that I didn't have. You have the gig economy. You have the ability to get to get some of the most talented people on the planet working in your business for a fraction of the cost. I didn't have that. I had to bring people in, and they were full-on 40-hour-a-week employees. So that's part of what is also in the course, is teaching you how to create proper SOPs so that now you can go find the most talented people. You can give them a job to do, let them execute that job, pay them for a fraction of their time, which helps you with profitability. So where I would have had to pay somebody $75,000 for the role that I had to hire him for, you can get that for 20. And someone that's more talented and more efficient and all those things. But this is all in the course, helping you to build SOP, helping you build structure so that you not only make more money, but you keep more money. All right. Next question, advice to new technology advisors. Question is, if someone is just entering the technology advisor space today, what advice would you give them? The very first thing is how you start is how you end. Okay. So that fundamental structure, super important. Bringing credibility to yourself by focusing on an ICP. The ICP and the IPP are the most important things right off the bat. So in building an ICP, we got to know who you're able to serve at the highest level, and you may have never been in this space before, but there still are people that you have influence with. There's some sort of avatar that you have influence with. We got to identify that, because that has to be your first target. Additionally, your IPP, there are 1,000 suppliers in this space. Who's the best for you and why? Like most of these decisions for new TAs come down to compensation. This company is giving me 10x. This company's giving me 5x. This company's giving me 20%. This company's giving me 18%. Whatever it is, that's how a lot of those decisions are made for new TAs. Having done this and built out my company and coached and mentored so many others to their success, that is the next thing you need to focus on, is understanding who's the best partner for you in business, who's the best TSD, who's the best supplier. And it's not about their value. It's not just about their value props and products. It's about you. And that's what I teach in the course. We start with you. You have to understand yourself. You got to understand your strengths and weaknesses. Because once you understand your strengths and weaknesses, now you can intelligently align yourself with the right suppliers, the right TSDs that take care of those weaknesses that you have. That's going to help you to scale faster. It's going to help your time to revenue increase. That is the biggest challenge that you have as a new TA in the space, is how do you get to revenue faster? Because the minute you step into this, you got a stopwatch of time before you either run out of money, you got to get a job, and you're going to be distracted and you're not going to be successful. So the most important thing you need to be thinking about is how do I get to revenue the fastest? You get to revenue the fastest by creating an ICP model that you can attack, an IPP model. These are two of the most core things. Okay. That's just so that you can get money in your pocket. And then the next thing is, how do we create structure? Pardon me, structure right off the bat. And so that you're building a scalable business. And when you're building a scalable business, because here's what happens is, if you don't do that, you just end up doing more time. You're exchanging time for money. And you might be making some money here in 3-4 years, but your lifestyle isn't going to be exactly the way that you want it to be, because you're going to have customers calling you all the time, and you're doing you're doing customer service stuff, you're doing sales stuff, you're doing everything. And you find yourself in a situation where you can't separate yourself from the business. And that is the definition of a non-scalable business. So those are a couple things. Next question is, what makes a great technology advisor? So, and I guess what separates average TA from a great one? I did a post last week about an experience that I had in searching for a car. And I think what separates any great consultant seller is curiosity and strategic curiosity. That's it. Like, yes, there are all other types of things that can be taught and all that, but authentic strategic curiosity, seeking to learn, seeking to know more, and drilling down and even more and more. Because the more curious you are, and again, when I say strategic curiosity, because curiosity just for the sake of being curious doesn't necessarily generate business. I can give it sitting in front of somebody and find out that they are a fan of a certain sports team, and to spend the whole meeting talking about the sports team. Yeah, it might be, they might like me, but I am not building value and I'm not getting them to lay out the playbook to close them. So strategic curiosity, in the sense that we have to ask these strategic questions that are going to help us to uncover what matters the most to them. Once we uncover what matters the most to them, now we're able to weave our solution in. That's strategic curiosity. So, and that's another thing that we talk about in the course. It's broken down so you understand how you should structure meetings, how to keep yourself in check to make sure that you're as productive as possible in these meetings. That's all in there too. Okay, next question. Lessons from consulting companies. So the question is, Ronell, you've consulted technology companies around the world. What patterns do you see in successful organizations? That is a layered question, because I think it's different. I will say, I'm going to speak specifically to suppliers in the technology channel and answer it for you. And what do I see? Craig Patterson, he did a post a couple of days ago I responded to, and he's been receiving a lot of attention over the last several years for his work in the channel. And I just asked him, like, what is it that's separating you guys? And his answer was on point, and just kind of what my philosophy is for doing successful business in the channel. I think that right now we are overvaluing what we call relationships and undervaluing the importance of sales enablement and education. Again, the space has a very high failure rate, and you have a large segment of successful TAs that are aging out, or um, just not moving because, for lack of a better term, they're kind of fat and happy. And so the smartest suppliers have to understand that the children are the future. Cue the Whitney Houston music. By children, I don't mean children, I don't mean age. I mean newer people in the space. We have thousands of people that are entering this space every single year. And a- I see a lot of suppliers repeating the same bad behavior, meaning they're just rinse and repeating the same things they've always done, and not truly investing in the development and education of these folks. Sure, you'll do road shows, you'll talk about your product, but as I said earlier in this, there's a massive gap for business development. And quite frankly, the vast majority of y'all out there don't really have the tools to coach, train, to develop people around building a business. But if you did, well, you know what happens then? Well, you build affinity with them. Not only are they going to be more successful in selling your product, but they're going to feel a connection. You're going to build a real relationship with them because you're part of their success journey, their success story. Do you hear what I'm saying? That's what separates. So there are not very many of y'all that are doing that for whatever reason. It is what it is. But that's another reason why I created this course, so that suppliers can have something that they can plug into and they can provide for their TAs that help them in that journey to building the business that they want to build. And you get to take credit for that. Okay. Next question. What philosophy guides how you think about business today? There's so many philosophies. Mm. Well, my sales philosophy is relationship centric selling, right? And relationship centric selling is throughout everything that I do. But here's what that means, because relationship, it's especially in the technology channel, gets thrown around a whole lot. And I truly do feel that, specifically from the supplier side of the house, they largely don't know what relationships actually mean. It's the superficial stuff. They think, sending gifts and all. Don't get me wrong, all that stuff is fine and it's good. Like, hey, sending gifts to your TAs and taking them out to dinner and taking them to basketball games and football games. Yeah, that's cool. And there's an aspect of relationship building in that. But the most important thing that you can do for a TA is help them to be successful, help them to make money. And the best way to be able to do that is to understand their unique challenges, irrespective of your product, unrelated to your product, unrelated to your service. Understand their unique challenges, understand what they're really faced with, and be a resource for them. Provide them tools, provide them coaching, provide them mentorship. Now, here's the thing. Most of y'all aren't qualified to do that part of it because you don't. What do you haven't done this? Built a agency before. You don't know how to do that. You don't know how to build a compensation plan. You don't know how to hire people in a small business environment, and that's okay. So then you need to be a resource. That's the most powerful thing that you can do in really building strong relationships, is become a trusted advisor to your TAs. You're the person they go to for advice on whatever, even though you don't necessarily know those you're not an expert in any of those fields. If you present yourself, not present, establish yourself as a conduit for information, a conduit for those resources, you will create a relationship like this. It's not built upon just superficial stuff, because now you become a true advisor to their business. You become inseparable from them. And the way you do that is not through steaks, it's not through basketball games, it's through education. All right. Next. And I'm almost done. I got 2 questions. That's it. Next question is, looking back at your career so far, what are you most proud of? I think so many things. So I'll start with what I'm proud of myself for, and that is just being courageous, being successful despite the odds, despite the people that conspired against me, despite the system that conspired against me, and still overcoming. And so that I'm proud of myself. Now, additionally, I'm proud of the impact that I've been able to have on people. I'm just talking specifically through my journey as an owner of agencies. The people that I put to work, I took great pride in development of people. I hired a lot of people that weren't qualified for the jobs that I hired them for, but they were ambitious. They needed a shot. They needed an opportunity, and I gave them that. And not only did that, I taught so many people how to be professionals. I'm very proud of that. And we impacted families, helped send kids to college and all that sort of thing. But yeah, I think the impact on the individuals, and showing what excellence looks like, and having people be part of that sort of environment that had never been part of it before, showing them that they were capable of much more. I'm super proud of that. Okay, last question is the future of the channel. What do you think the technology advisor model, where do you think the technology advisor model is going over the next decade? Oh, I love this question. Here's why, because we're going in 2 directions. So, dirty little secret. The technology advisor world and technology channel exploded largely due to transactional selling. I know everyone talks about relationships and consultants, and don't get me wrong, there are fantastic consultants out there that have great relationships. They're great at developing relationships. But I'm gonna tell you the truth. I've been around this thing for 25 years. A lot of your more successful agents were transactional sellers. They're selling long distance, they're selling POTS lines, they were selling circuits, and it was really just coming down to price and relationships they had internally at suppliers and carriers. That's a whole nother story. However, we're going in 2 different directions right now. AI is the most massive disruptor in technology sales, and not in the way that a lot of people think. People think that, well, it's increasing efficiencies, and all the suppliers and software companies are implementing it, and it's becoming better solutions. Yep, all that's true. But here's what's also true is that the buyers are becoming more savvy and less reliant on a human in their buying process. So if you are a transactional seller, if you're selling transactionally, you're selling 1 product, 2 products, and it's largely price driven. They don't need you. They're not going to need you anymore. And that supplier is not going to need you anymore. because they're all working on AI solutions. Everyone is, to be able to create a path to where it is an automated buyer process. And guess what? The buyers want it. They want it because millennials are the number one decision maker right now. And the numbers say this, not Ronell. The numbers say that millennials are very comfortable with an automated, computer-driven buying process, and so they will do that 9 times out of 10. I was on a panel with Mei Lee Langley, and that's what Mei Lee said. She's like, she's uber millennial. She's like, yeah, I don't want to deal with people if I don't have to. So think about that. So the TA world is going in one of two directions. That, and then there's the solution consultative relationship centric approach. This side over here has to be multi-carrier. It has to be about tech stacks because it's about solutions, multi-carrier, multi-supplier. So like the companies that are going to be more successful are the ones, the TAs are going to be more successful are the ones that have a tech stack. So they're bringing a full end-to-end solution. They're not just bringing one product or two products. They're bringing a solution. And they are, and it's going to have to be, again, niching in the sense of like understanding ICP, serving very specific communities at a high level with tech stacks. That's where the success is going to be. Transactional, AI is going to do that. It's doing it today. And not only is it going to do it, all parties involved want it to do it. Because again, the millennial buyer, they're fine with that. And your suppliers, your software companies, oh, they're more than fine with it too. Because they can build an AI that handles that part of the process and drive down expenses. You hear what I'm saying? Like it's a win-win. So like this is a no-brainer. If you haven't figured that out, that part is a no-brainer, and it's happening, and it's probably going to happen faster than you think because everything with AI and technology is happening at lightning speed right now. And I can tell you from the smart suppliers that I know that are, they're all, if they're not working on it, they're thinking about it right now. Okay. That is the future. Wow. How'd we do? All right. That's it, guys. So, thanks for y'all for hanging in there with me. Hope you learned a little bit more about what it is that I do and my experience and to help bring greater context to why the $1 Million Agency Blueprint is so valuable, why it's so impactful, and why it will help you as a TA win, and suppliers, software companies, carriers, why you need to tap into this. So bulk licenses are available. You need to tap into this and be providing this to your TAs before your competitor does it. So it is what it is. Like this is we just launched last week and we're getting tons of energy, and no doubt you guys have seen lots of stuff on social media about it. And yeah, this is something I'm not only very excited about, I'm passionate about. And you should be passionate about. You should be passionate about educating your TAs, because again, if it's not you, it's going to be your competitor, because the adoption rates on this are going to go high. I can guarantee you that. So make sure that you're the one that's taking advantage of that, and you're building that relationship with your trusted advisors. Any questions on that? You guys can always reach out to me. You know where I'm at. I appreciate y'all hanging in there with me. $1 Million Agency Blueprint is the site. If you are a supplier or a TSD and you are interested in bulk licensing, there is a bulk licensing page on the site. You can fill out a form on there and we'll be in touch and help you to be able to enable your sellers in ways, your TAs and sellers in ways that you haven't before. All right. Peace out. Thank y'all. Have a fantastic Monday.